day one of our Fearless in 21 Day live video chats. I'm really excited to sort of connect with you guys live video. This gives me a chance, versus me just posting a video. Live video gives me a chance to read your comments, to answer some questions, to encourage you guys. So I love the fact that we can do this face to face and that I don't have to leave my home in -20 weather. We are in a cold snap right now where I am, and so life is miserable and frozen, and I'm outdoorsy, but not that outdoorsy that I want to brave the freezing cold. But anyway, I'm happy you guys can join me. So today, our first day, day one of our Fearless in February, Fearless in 21 Day sort of chat. They're going to be about 20-minute chat, short and sweet, because I'm busy, you're busy, and this gives us a chance to connect and talk about some really important sort of key aspects to living fearless. So before we begin, a lot of you know me and a lot of you don't, so I'm just going to take a few seconds to sort of tell you a little bit about my story and who I am. So I am an author. I'm a mom of 5 kids. I've just recently published my book, Fearless in 21 Days, which I'm really excited about, and a lot of people think, oh, this book just kind of came out of nowhere, but this book has actually been about a 6-year journey. And it is to help those of you who are battling anxiety and even depression and panic attacks and any level of anxiety, from sort of quiet and subtle, nagging you a little bit, to extreme and panic-ridden. And this book, Fearless in 21 Days, actually is my story intertwined with practical tips and tools that you guys can use to overcome anxiety. This is a book I wish I had when I went through anxiety, and that's been my heart all along in writing this, is what would I have needed to hear in my moment of anxiety. So I wanted to kind of share really briefly my story of being a very busy mom. I had just had my 5th child, and so I was very exhausted. There was postpartum messed up in that, but I didn't know how to slow down. And I'm also, if you see me down here waving, I'm waving to my live Instagram story. So I thought I would invite my Instagram friends over here for our live video as well. So for about 6 months after my last child was born, I started getting really tired, and I also never slowed down after my 5th. I was taking on big projects at church. I was doing a lot. I was trying to please everybody, and I was in a very discontented state of mind, always feeling discouraged, always feeling kind of low and depressed, and I just started noticing things change with me. I didn't have the energy that I used to have to get things done, and I just noticed that something wasn't right. And then after a series of a lot of stressful and traumatic moments, it just kind of life hits, and one thing seems to happen after another. Had a lot of losses, a lot of illnesses and stuff around me, friends and family, close people. It kind of really derailed me. And one day I woke up and I was hitting the treadmill, and I was trying really hard to be perfect in every way, and my heart started racing out of control, and it wouldn't stop. And I told myself, well, just get off the treadmill and just catch your breath a little bit, you'll be fine. And then what proceeded to happen was I was not fine, and all of a sudden I was panicking, and I thought I was going to die. And I remember in that moment walking around the house thinking to myself, this is it. I'm having a heart attack. This is what a heart attack feels like. Oh my gosh, I'm going to die. And I had all of my kids at home, and I had a few other kids because they were having a sleepover, and my husband was already at work. I was all alone. And so I remember looking into the backyard to catch some fresh air, saying, should I go lay out on the lawn? Well, no one will see me if I die there. Should I go into the kitchen? Like, where is a good place for me to lay down and die? Was basically how my mind was hitting me in that moment. And so I got to my red couch and I phoned 911, and the paramedics came, and I was a mess, you guys. I was trembling, I was shaking, I couldn't even speak, and my chest felt so heavy, and I was dizzy, and I was just an absolute mess. And I knew for sure, without a doubt, that I was dying from a heart attack. They checked all of my vitals, and sure enough, you guys, it was a panic attack. Now, I felt ridiculous. I felt so embarrassed, but even though part of my mind didn't really believe them, they were 100% sure that this wasn't a heart attack, that all my vitals were fine, and that I should just go to bed and get some rest. So I'd had a panic attack before several years ago and kind of was able to get a handle on that, but this just seemed different. It was just way more extreme than the last few anxiety attacks I had had in the past. Anyway, so I thought, well, I'll go to bed, I'll get some rest, I'll feel better in the morning. But unfortunately for me, this was just the beginning of a very dark season and a very intense downward spiral into anxiety and panic disorder. And so I ended up having panic attacks anywhere from 5 to 10 times a day. I mean, you guys, it was a constant battle. Even through the night, I would wake up in the middle of the night having a panic attack, thinking I was going to die. And eventually that just really escalated into a general anxiety disorder. I had a lot of phobias and fears about my health. And then eventually that really spiraled into a really severe form of anxiety as I started showing symptoms of OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, more of the obsessive thoughts side of things about harming myself, and it just became so intense. And as the word of God says, anxiety in the heart of a man leads to depression. And eventually that sort of constant chronic battle with severe anxiety, hi guys, turned into deep suicidal depression. So you guys, I went from mama 5, trying to keep my house together, trying to be Pinterest perfect, trying to please God, please man, get in shape. You know, I was somebody who really encouraged a lot of people. I never really struggled with depression before, and my fatigue and my burnout escalated into a very, very serious mental illness, which lasted about over a year. And so from that, I was already blogging and already writing, and as God began to heal me, I was determined that I would not leave anybody else alone, searching online, searching everywhere they could to find a resource, especially a Christian resource, that could help them through one of the darkest mental seasons that I have ever experienced and probably will ever experience. So anyway, that was sort of my heart in reaching out, and it started off with my blog and so forth. So all of that said, as I sort of told you a little bit about my story, I thought it would be really awesome this February for those of you who are in Canada, or at least northern United States or the UK, wherever you guys are from. You're probably in a bit of a cold snap too, and winter can be darn right miserable and really depressing. Thanks, Jenna. So nice to see you when you pop up. Anyway, so I just thought that February would be an awesome time to focus 21 days, short and sweet videos to help you guys find some tools and some ideas. A lot of these things are coming right out of my book, Fearless in 21 Days. If you guys haven't gotten it already, please get it. And if you're not getting it for yourself, I know that you know at least 10 people in your life who could really use this book. So it's everywhere books are sold, so make sure you guys grab my book. Anyway, so today I wanted to talk about one of the first things that really helped me get over this intense hurdle of panic attacks and this intense hurdle of, oh my goodness, what is happening to me? Why is my body falling apart? Why is my mind falling apart? What's going on? What's wrong with me? I'm dying. Everyone who's telling me it's anxiety, they don't know what they're talking about. So what kind of helped me get over that intense hurdle was understanding fear. So it was actually learning and studying. I'm just saying hi to my Instagram live feed here. Hi guys, thanks for joining me. Make sure you guys leave a comment too if you have any questions, and I'll peek down here and answer your guys' questions too. Anyway, so the first sort of victory, I guess you could say, which was really early on in my anxiety journey, was really understanding fear. And I did that through researching in a lot of medical sites and a lot of really great books. I can post some of those in there that really kind of helped me understand how and why my body was responding the way that it was to fear and anxiety. And so learning that a lot of the symptoms that I was dealing with, because you guys, I remember Googling, as many of us do when you're struggling with anxiety, especially when you're having physical symptoms of it. And I would Google symptoms that I was having, physical symptoms, very real physical symptoms, not in my head, very real. And I was looking them up because I was sure and convinced that I was dying of some sort of mysterious disease that nobody was going to listen to me about. And I would Google the symptom, and then it would be like, oh, it's anxiety. Great. And so then the next week I'd get a new symptom, and I would look it up, and oh, this is another form of anxiety. And so literally, I think every single symptom, physical, mental, emotional symptom that I had, every single one. So every single way your body can manifest anxiety, I'm pretty sure that I had every one. I remember being unable to concentrate. I couldn't remember my name sometimes. I couldn't remember where I was or who I was, and sometimes moments of panic, like it just really distorted my mind. I had a lot of brain fuzz and confusion. I had trembling, like I shook a lot. I had stuttering. I stuttered. I couldn't really get the words out of my mouth. And what else? Heart palpitations. My chest always felt heavy, like I had an elephant on it. The worst for me was the choking sensation, where I always had a tight throat, where I felt I couldn't swallow. Sometimes my eyes hurt. I couldn't focus properly. Sometimes I was so over aware of every nerve in my body, which was so all-consuming and distracting. I mean, you guys, it's all consuming with anxiety, and your body, your mind, and your spirit are all just doing this big dance. And so understanding the symptoms and how and why our body responded to anxiety was extremely helpful for me. So one of my fearless tips for you guys, if you're dealing with some certain aspects of symptoms, physical symptoms of anxiety, I think it'd be really good for you guys to do a little bit of research, find a book to understand how your body responds to fear, especially if you're dealing with panic attacks, because with panic attacks, it really is a very sort of, how do I explain this, scientific 20-minute cycle of this surge of anxiety. It's like your body goes into panic mode, and it has this routine, it has this dance, and so all of these symptoms and all of these things are going to escalate, and then eventually it's going to calm down. And there really is a rhythm to your body when it's overcome with panic and anxiety. And so understanding in the moment of a panic attack or extreme anxiety that, oh my goodness, why is my heart hurting? Why are these symptoms happening? To understand that this is actually a natural physical response to what's happening in your mind. And that really helps me not be so afraid of panic attacks and so afraid of the symptoms I was having. And that was huge, because one of the biggest things that keeps us in a cycle of panic, especially those who struggle with panic disorder, is the fear of another panic attack. You spend so much of your energy going, well, will I? Or what if I have a panic attack when I'm driving? Or what if I have a panic attack when I'm out, with this person or whatever? So you do everything you can to avoid that because you're afraid of the panic. And so for me, understanding the symptoms and learning that I didn't have to be afraid of them was huge breakthrough for me. And so one of the first chapters, day 1, actually, in my book, Fearless in 21 Days, let me open up here, is actually entitled The Creation of Fear. And so this was something that through prayer, when I was, asking God, what is going on? What is happening to me? Why am I struggling with this so much? Understanding actually God's purpose with fear was immense and such an intense breakthrough for me, especially when you are somebody like me who felt like I was doing everything right. You guys, like, I know a lot of people when they're struggling with anxiety and depression will, seek help. And unfortunately, within the church, we're not quite as equipped. The stigma is not quite broken yet. We still have a lot of learning to do. But there was this initial sort of reaction of like, well, you just need to pray more and you just need to do this more. And for me, that was very frustrating because I was a very dedicated person. I spent a lot of time in worship. I spent a lot of time in prayer. I spent a lot of time reading the Word of God in that season. And so for me, I felt like I checked off all of the right boxes. So I didn't understand why I was having a mental breakdown and why fear was being all consuming. And I go into that in a lot more detail about sort of the deeper journey in that. However, understanding and God showing me, look, Sarah, like this fear that you're feeling isn't a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of you're broken, and it's not a sign like these physical symptoms. It's not a sign that you're against me or you're sinning or anything like that. That it was actually my body doing what God had created it to do. So even the physical symptoms and even the racing thoughts and all of that kind of stuff was such a gift from the Lord in a sense. And I know that seems a little bit odd because it's such a horrible sensation, but I really go into detail in that first chapter about how we have the same emotion, the same physical response to excitement. We have the same heart palpitations and shaking and racing thoughts and adrenaline that rushes through our body when we experience the emotion of awe. So when we experience the presence of God and we experience something that's bigger than ourselves. And so I talk about that. And so could you imagine, you guys, being witnesses to God, being witness to his presence, especially some of the stories in the Old Testament of actually, witnessing an angel or the presence of God. And we had no response whatsoever, no mental response, no physical response. And we simply responded with, oh, that's interesting. We wouldn't experience joy. We wouldn't experience the elation of seeing something that is wonderful and amazing. And so why every time when God had a visitation in the Old Testament, did he proceed with fear not? Because that excitement and that wonder and that awe evokes the same emotion and reaction as fear does, if you were to stop and think about that for a moment. And so I really felt that Satan really robs us of that emotion, and he's turned this fear, this natural response that God has placed within us to feel and see and experience things with our whole body, mind, and spirit, and he's used it for his glory, which is basically fear and torment. And so when God began to sort of reveal that to me, it was such a breakthrough for me, understanding that I didn't have to work really hard to get rid of all of the fear symptoms that I was feeling, but I just needed to redirect it to the place where God had originally designed fear. So for me, understanding fear from a physical perspective, from a physiological perspective, how does it affect our body, our mind, our will, our emotions, how it's all interconnected, and having a deep, more theological understanding of fear was an extreme breakthrough for me. So I really feel that if you have my book, Fearless in 21 Days already, and you go through that chapter of understanding fear, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, God's purpose and his creation of fear, it's going to bring immense breakthrough. And don't rush through it. Take some time to sort of really seek God about this and go through those fear not scriptures in the Bible and really sort of dig in and understand, the beauty of people responding to God in such a intense way. It really is a powerful breakthrough in your understanding. And so anyway, so understanding fear was key to breaking off the panic of panic and really stepping into, okay, I don't have to be so afraid of the fear and anxiety I'm feeling. I can actually start focusing on some deeper issues in my heart. So that's what I wanted to kick off our day one, our 21-day Fearless February is understanding fear. So take some time, do a little bit of research, do a little bit of homework, and sort of read into how your body manifests fear. Do you guys struggle? You say, well, I don't struggle with anxiety, but I can't sleep. Or I have this weird symptom that my doctor's never been able to diagnose. Maybe, perhaps, just maybe, you should look into that a little bit from anxiety. Because what happens is, you guys, we work really hard to distract ourselves from fear. We work really, really hard to push it down. We work really, really hard to run away from it. We work really, really hard to not feel fear. And my whole point in everything that I guys say is to learn to embrace it and not be afraid of it, because then it has the power and you don't anymore. And so I think it's really, really important that you understand that your body, your mind, and your spirit, they have to be able to express fear. And if you won't let yourself mentally, because you're just doing everything you can to push down and hide those sort of insecure places in your heart and your spirit, it will eventually come out through your body, which did with me. I mean, I did everything I could to run away and hide and push all of my feelings down and just suck it up and move on. And eventually it just came out, and it came out in a severe mental breakdown, which I don't want to see happen to you guys. So pay attention to your body and give it some room and some grace to express the anxiety and insecurity that it feels, and learn to understand your fear at a deeper level. It really will help you guys. So that's it, 20 minutes and 12 seconds. Thanks, Instagram, for joining me. You guys were an awesome audience, and I'm loving the filters on Instagram, which unfortunately, maybe you guys need to go back and watch me in my Instagram story because you get a lot of really cool features that make me look like a rock star. So anyway, have an awesome Saturday, you guys. Bless you. Do me a favor. There's so many people who battle fear, and it is still one of those things that we don't like to talk about. And when I went through my disorder, I was so desperate for a resource, so desperate for somebody to tell me that they had experienced this too. I wanted a message of hope, and I wanted some practical tools to help me, but I didn't know who to ask. And I wasn't about to go to all of my friends and family and say, do you know any good books on your whole life falling apart, right? It's not a really easy thing to talk about. And so do me a favor and just share this video, share a link to my website, saraeball.com, and you just never know. I get a lot of emails from people, and this is one of the biggest, most common emails I get. I'm so thankful that I found you. Because what my message is bringing is a sense of hope that they too can be fearless, and they too don't have to let fear and anxiety and depression, or even just deep discouragement, control their lives anymore. So will you help other people find me, you guys? It takes a village to raise a fearless message, and I really need you guys' help. So share this video, share my post, and let those people who are struggling in darkness find me and find this message of hope. So anyway, love you guys. I will see you tomorrow for day 2 as we dig in a little bit deeper to understanding and conquering this fear thing. All right, have an awesome day, you guys. See ya.